If you're Gen X, you already know how to survive. I mean, there's no question that we're built tough. But here's the situation. Some of the things that we're doing or not doing are putting a world of hurt upon us. The things in this video today, they're not bad luck or bad circumstances that happen to good people. No, they're all things that we could change about ourselves if we got serious about it. So let's talk about 6 common traps that I see a lot of us Gen Xers falling into and what to do instead to stay on track. All right, so let's get into it. First on the list, one of the things I see a lot of us struggle with is living for instant gratification. I just read an article that stated that the opinion of the economy is at its lowest point in recorded history. And we've gone through a lot of bad economic times just in this country alone. However, consumer spending in almost every category is up. Now that mismatch is a clue. We've gotten used to treating the right now like it's the only moment that matters. Tiny dopamine hits that cost us big later. And seriously, ads have been targeting us for decades. Many of them saying, you deserve it, treat yourself. Every day becomes a special occasion with a price tag attached to it. So can we just stop spending for just a minute and ask ourselves some realistic questions? Number one, can you cover an unexpected $2,000 to $3,000 situation without panicking? Or are the rewards truly rewarding some endeavor or accomplishment? Or is it just you telling yourself that, hey, I work hard, I deserve this? If this seems to be a struggle for you, there are things that you can do instead, but you've got to apply them. You have to train yourself. First, you could flip the reward order. Do the thing first and then reward second. Be specific and name the win, name the achievement. Also, try to use the 48-hour rule before you click and buy whatever it is. You could automate a certain amount per paycheck and just call that your fun fund. And when you deplete that every paycheck, then you're done. Instant gratification isn't all bad, but it's just expensive and addictive when it's constant or when you feel like you expect it. And also when it's frequent like that, it loses its power and its appeal. Have you ever noticed that the first donut always tastes so much better than the second one? Okay, the second thing I see a lot of us doing is negative self-talk. And I know we grew up saying, whatever. It was like our armor. If you never let yourself care, then you never get disappointed, right? It worked back then, but now that same attitude can quietly sabotage us. Maybe we've gotten too comfortable putting ourselves down, playing that I don't care card when we really actually do. The next time that voice shows up, try something different. Catch it and ask yourself, would you ever say those same words to someone you love? Or how would you react if someone else said them to you? There's enough in this world that's gonna tear us down, come after us, but we don't need to be our own worst enemy. We don't need to make it easy for the world to beat us up. I challenge every one of you to be your own champion. And let's cut out a few of the usual suspects. Never, should have, always. Those words almost never tell the truth. Because when you rehearse things in your mind and you say things to yourself like, I always say the wrong thing, or I never stand up for myself, or I should have done something. You're not describing reality, you're just reinforcing a story. And the twist is that it takes the same amount of effort to say something kind instead. Just one word re-swap most of the time. That's it. And if you say it enough, you will start to believe it. And that works either way. Why wouldn't we want to believe the best of ourselves? Okay, the third thing on this list is mismanaging money. Gen X, we've got to talk about money. We're carrying too much debt and we're not saving enough. We're betting too heavily on home equity. A lot of us are living as if we've got 100% job security. We're also acting as if retirement is far off into the future. Or we tell ourselves, I'll just work forever. Those thoughts are just diversions to keep us from thinking about what we really should be thinking about, because we know we need to be saving for retirement. We know we need to quit piling on more debt, but reality bites, right? But pretending only feels good for so long. Trying to look prosperous is a trap, but real wealth, that's time and peace of mind, memories that actually mean something. If you want to truly feel rich, start with building some margin in your life. I mean, at some point, we want to get off of the hamster wheel of spending, right? Okay, number 4 on the list is neglecting our bodies. Now, it's tempting to shrug off health concerns. I know I've been guilty of that one many times. But Gen Xers, we already know we're not going to inherit or get the same retirement that our parents or grandparents got. So why should we assume that we're going to age the same way they did? Now, a lot of us may all have that relative or know of that relative that lived till 95 years old and died peacefully in her sleep. But for most of our grandparents, life expectancy was shorter, and chronic illnesses, they weren't as drawn out as they are today. And now, yeah, we're living longer, but often sicker. Medications and treatments, they keep us going, but our health spans, the quality of those years, they're declining. And a lot of these issues, they're hitting Gen Xers earlier and sooner in age than they did the boomers. So we're getting sicker sooner and staying sicker for longer. It's time that we start listening to our bodies and caring enough to take action before crisis hits. And we've got to stop thinking that there's a pill or a medication out there that we can just take that'll fix it all, because that rarely happens. But I think most of us have seen enough that we know that the medications, yeah, they may extend our lifespans, but we're not so sure that they give us healthy years in return for that. Now, there are things that you can do today, and science even backs it up, that small, proactive steps that you take for your health. Because every time you choose health in your daily actions, you're building a better future for yourself and for your loved ones. Okay, number 5 is living without a plan. You can get through life without a plan. But let's be real, life is usually better with one. When we're younger, we can get by without a plan. Just get up, live for the day. But when we reach our 50s, that strategy needs to shift a little bit. It's a time to take stock of your health and your daily habits and make a plan to steer yourself in the right direction. Does personal growth matter to you? Like new experiences, new hobbies, new skills? If so, don't just wait for someday. Make a plan and make it happen now. Do you have a plan for the house that you're living in right now? Is this house going to age well with you in the future? Can you see yourself living there 10, 20, 30 years from now? And of course, the big one, do you actually have a retirement plan? Now, you could take an hour this week and just sit down and brainstorm, write down a plan for what you want your next season of life to look like. Now, just because you make a plan doesn't guarantee the success of it, but that's okay. Because once you've made that plan the first time, it's easier to build off of those mistakes, build off that foundation, and move forward. Once you become a plan builder, It'll be hard to stop you. Okay, number 6 is our addiction to ultra-processed foods. Now, while I was researching this point, I found out some things that were really disturbing. And then things started to make a whole lot more sense to me. Okay, first let me say that if you crave super ultra-processed foods, there's a reason why behind it. And I'm going to share that with you. Did you know that 2 of the largest cigarette brand companies bought out major food companies in the 1980s? Because I didn't know that. R.J. Reynolds, the makers of Camel and Winston cigarettes, they bought out Nabisco in the 80s. And Philip Morris, the ones behind Marlboro, Virginia Slims, they bought out Kraft and General Foods in the same decade. They were looking to broaden their horizons, seeing as their main product, the smokes, were getting defamed. So what did they do when they bought out these food companies? They applied the same addiction science and tactics to those foods that us 80s kids were eating. Now, of course, they didn't add nicotine to the foods. They probably wanted to, but they did so much research on how addictive, what the certain point is on, sugar and salt and other chemicals. Now, I can link these sources that I'm referring to in the description box below if you're interested. But tell me in the comments, did you already know this? Because studies now show, and this one is recent, that Gen X has some of the highest rates of addiction to ultra-processed foods. And it's no wonder why. Because this isn't about weak willpower. This is about intentional design. These foods were literally built to cause us to crave them more. Just think about it like this. Do you crave apples the way you crave Frosted Flakes? Or do you ever look at that bag of fresh potatoes and think, oh man, I could just eat that whole bag? Just the same way that you could eat a whole bag of Lay's potato chips? The research found that 21% of Gen X women and 10% of Gen X men, they meet the criteria for ultra-processed food addiction. That's 21% and 10%. That's higher than rates of alcoholism, which is 1.5%, and smoking, which is 4%. So you could say those old cigarette companies, they did better with the food than they did the smoking. Of course, smoking is not as hip as it was 40, 50 years ago. Now, when you realize that corporations knowingly used addiction tactics to keep us hooked, it's kind of hard to not feel angry about that. And if anger is what it takes to be able to resist some of this laboratory manufactured food, then by all means, use that. Because every time you cook at home, cook something from scratch, you break a pattern that someone else designed. And that's one way that we can start reclaiming our health one meal at a time. And most of the time, we're just living our lives. It's not like we set out to sabotage our future, but it's the small things sometimes. It's the comfortable, the habits, the routines. Those are the things that can steer us off course the most. But the good news is that we don't have to keep letting it happen that way. We can start making tiny, better choices. If we repeat them long enough, then they become our new normal. If this video hit home for you, please hit the like button, subscribe, share this with another Gen Xer, because the more we wake up to all of this stuff, the better we can all be. And if you want to keep that momentum going, check out this next video. What younger Gen Xers can learn from a slightly older Gen Xer. I'll link it right here. I'm Sherry. And signing off, Nanu Nanu. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.